We need to be ready for tours, 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 and guess what? More tours. Unpopular to believe in today's technology world, people still want to see it for themselves, or at least their parents do.
This episode of the Student Housing Insight Podcast is sponsored by the Guarantors. If you're an operator, you know the importance of a parental guarantor. Having parental guarantors legitimizes your rent roll. But have you ever tried collecting from a parental guarantor after their student skips out or they have to be evicted? How quickly were you able to recoup lost rent from that parental guarantor? The truth is, if things get to a point where a student skips out or is evicted for non-payment, the parental guarantor doesn't care about their credit score. There may have been a job loss or even a divorce. No background check is going to tell you which parent is about to leave their spouse or has an employer who is about to downsize. So how do you eliminate that risk? I mean, reducing risk is like the top 3 responsibilities of a property manager. Well, the Guarantor's rent coverage product does just that. Not only will it ensure that you can quickly recoup lost rent, but it will also increase your prospect to lease conversion rate because you're not waiting on a parent to provide their information. This product makes so much sense for student housing assets, and that's exactly why I'm now advising my asset management clients to forget about parental guarantors and talk to the Guarantors. You can find more information about their rent coverage product as well as other risk reduction products they provide to the student housing industry by going to theguarantors.com/student. You can also find the link in the show notes. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Student Housing Insight Podcast. I'm your host, Wesley Dees. I'm also the CEO of Student Housing Insight. That's correct. Student Housing Insight is not just a podcast, but we're really a digital platform for off-campus student housing professionals to network, to share ideas as well as data. You can find out more information about the platform at studenthousinginsight.com. Again, that's studenthousinginsight.com. You know, in addition to the podcast, we also host the industry's monthly webinar specifically for the United States. It's called Shop Talk. Each month, we provide legislative and policy updates that are impacting our industry. Shop Talk also provides a monthly overview of pre-leasing data on a national and a regional basis. And we also invite in a panel of operators for each of these that can provide kind of their on-the-ground observations as to what they're seeing happening with pre-leasing. And then we also typically provide a topic of the month as well. So, you know, a lot of great information. And if you're involved in the operations of student housing in the U.S., or you have, ownership in assets, student housing assets here in the U.S., you should really register to receive our monthly invites to Shop Talk. You can register to receive those as well as review any prior Shop Talk webinars that we've done by going to shoptalk.info. Again, that's www.shoptalk.info, not .com, but .info. And but we'll also provide that link in our show notes as well. Well, guys, we're at that time of the year again when we're getting really focused on summer turn, obviously. But for those properties who are not finished with their lease up for the year, it's a time where, quite honestly, we have to be really intentional and disciplined to make sure that we, finish out that leasing season strong. So that's the topic for this episode. For those that aren't aware, each year, Student Housing Insight, we pick 12 student housing professionals to be our, we call them ambassadors, Student Housing Insight ambassadors. And part of what they are tasked with is to pick a month out of the year in which they want to provide a piece of content for the SHI platform. So if you listen back in March, Piper Schlink with Cardinal Group, she provided kind of her checklist on preparing for turn. If you're tuned in to what we're doing on our website, back in May, you would have seen from Carly Shepard from Student Quarters. She provided a blog giving her tips on making move-in day a success. And I've got to say, guys, this is great content that is evergreen, and it's perfect in helping, I would say, newer staff members and get a better understanding of the student housing cycle. And when I say newer, I don't mean brand new. I mean, certainly if they're within that first year of working in this industry, if they're in a new position, maybe they've been promoted from a leasing manager to a property manager, and this is their first or second year as a property manager. This is great content for that. So please make sure you get all of your staff members and your colleagues plugged into the Student Housing Insight platform. I think there's a lot they'll get out of that. So anyway, for this month, and actually I should say it's for the month of June, but we got a bit behind on some things, and this is being released in early July. But Terrence Jackson with Campus Life and Style, who's one of our ambassadors, reached out to me and said, hey, I want to create something to help people with the summer slide. So for those that don't know, Terrence and I worked together many years ago, and I knew exactly what he meant by summer slide. And it's what I described earlier. It's that time starting in June when everyone is starting to put on, their blinders, so to speak, and they're just starting to focus on everything that has to do to get through turn. But regardless if you're finished with your leasing or not, there are still other things that just can't be ignored. And so I told him I thought that was a great idea. I think the timing was perfect for it. Now, for some reason, he wanted to do this as a video versus just audio. So, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, that's not called YouTube, you're missing out on the video. So, if you want to see my face, and I'm sure all the great B-roll that my editor will be using for this, go check this out at our YouTube channel, and make sure you subscribe when you're there as well. We put out a lot of stuff. All of our Shop Talk episodes are logged there as well. So a lot of great content. So, okay, back on Summer Slide. Terrence took a really cool approach to this, and I asked, he asked himself, I should say, what would today's college students do if they were still looking for housing this summer? And he thought, you know what? I bet they'll probably go to ChatGPT. So he did that. He went to ChatGPT and typed in something like how to secure off-campus housing. And so he did that, and then kind of got those answers and reverse engineered those answers to create a list of areas that you and your staff should certainly focus on this summer. And I thought it was really clever what he did, and I love what he came up with. So with that being said, here's Terrence Jackson talking about the summer slide.
Hi, everyone. It's that time again for what I call the summer slide in student housing. Sounds fun, right? For those properties who have hit 100%, congratulations, because it sure is. But for those properties who still have 50% or more to go before reaching 100% or budgeted occupancy, the summer slide can be daunting, very daunting, and not so fun. It can be filled with nervousness, anxiety, and pressure coming on all sides of those responsible for driving the leasing goals. Student housing runs on cycles, like the four seasons of winter, spring, summer, and fall in student housing for some time. By now, you should know the seasons of student housing. From August to September, I call this the cool down. From October to November, the jumpstart. From December to January, the break. From February to May, I call this the ramp up. And the month that we're in, June through August, I call this the summer slide. Whether you're sliding down to a successful turn and move-in experience, or you're sliding up to get to 100%, this month's Student Housing Insight podcast will hopefully help those who need an extra oomph of encouragement, along with tools and resources to use to help make the summer slide more enjoyable. Now, We can never forget about the foundations of the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s of leasing. But I wanted to try something different and out of the norm for myself while trying to figure out what to share regarding what I call the summer slide. Putting myself in the place of a student who has not found housing yet for fall 2024, I thought about what students may be using, and I stumbled across an app called ChatGPT, asking the following tips on leasing apartments and student housing during the summer. Time for a disclaimer. This is not a paid promotion for ChatGPT, as there are many AI technology platforms that you can use to help you in the summer slide for ideas and to enhance your creative thoughts. So let's reverse the information that I found and how we can slide with ease to help prospects and prospective guarantors draw to our apartments by highlighting what's important to them in deciding or to affirm the decision that was made to those who have already signed with our apartments for this upcoming fall. The first topic that was pulled, it's time to get into it. Research and planning. ChatGPT prompts people to start early and to know their budget. We need to make sure that we can send information to our prospects that can do the work of research for them in their search for their next apartment for fall 2024. Some questions to consider. Do you have a solid rate sheet, a dare to compare board, or a dare to compare flyer that compares your community to your comps? Have you thought about how your apartment community compares to staying on campus in the residence halls? Or even how much money can a prospect save by signing at your community compared to your comps or on campus living? This information should be readily available to send, to hand out, or communicated to each person interested in signing a lease at your apartment community. With the rising cost of rent and other living expenses, rental rates and fees are a priority to those looking at our apartment communities. We need to make sure to communicate what move-in fees will be, what's included in the monthly rent amount, and let applicants know if a security deposit or guarantor fees are required so that each prospect can save their funds depending on their financial status. Next topic that was pulled, finding the right place. ChatGPT prompts people to consider location, safety, and also amenities. During the summer slide, now is the time to check your curb appeal, as if we shouldn't be doing that anyway. Walk your tour path. Even create a new tour path to create an experience that is fresh and involve your maintenance team for touch up projects around the property to anticipate tours from not only the prospect, but with the parents and other prospective roommates looking to fill a unit. Now is also a good time to do your property walks, checking for security threats or preventative maintenance items that vendors may need to be contracted to complete while most of your community is away for the summer before move out begins in July. Prospects are looking at proximity to grocery stores, entertainment, and shopping centers, and most importantly, the distance from your community to the local university. Know your community and use the summertime to cross market with local businesses that are useful to residents. Lease terms and negotiation. ChatGPT prompts people to review the lease length and lease documents carefully as well as to negotiate. Quiz your leasing teams on what is included in your lease agreement during your weekly team meetings to ensure that everyone is knowledgeable to assist all prospects and prospective guarantors on questions that matter to them about their upcoming or future living experience. Questions to consider. Do you offer short term leases? What are your relet terms? More than ever, parents or prospective guarantors will be engaging with you and your teams to understand the best deal they believe they can get, as many are facing affordability concerns. Remember your property's value and be confident that your community's rate is the best in the market and showcase your why. Now is a good time to role play with your team also to make sure your team can interact with authenticity and to be natural and not awkward in their interaction and can display confidence, believing in your property for what it can offer to your future residents. Inspecting the property. This is a big one. ChatGPT notes to schedule a tour of the properties that pique your interest and while on tour to check for maintenance. We need to be ready for tours, 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 and guess what? More tours. Unpopular to believe in today's technology world, people still want to see it for themselves, or at least their parents do. Hike up your social media presence in providing virtual tours with your social media platforms and also be able to provide FaceTime tours. Remember that your property tells the story of what your future residents and prospects should want to experience. Questions to consider: do you have branded signage, A-frames, bandit signs, flags, or banners letting prospects know your community is open and ready to lease? Roommates. ChatGPT prompts to understand roommate policies and to be willing to meet with potential roommates. Roommate matching can be grueling. We've all been there before, matching roommates with another roommate to predict a future resident's living experience with a roommate match based on roommate preferences. But there are some ways to make this process easier or less daunting by trying the following. We need to give time for future roommates to build relationships by sending out the roommate information and unit assignments out the earlier, the better. Why? We need to give time for any switches or conflicts to occur so that we can minimize transfers during the lease term. Imagine your property is 100%, there's nowhere to go. Host virtual roommate meetups. Plan for roommate pop up events that are local to the area. So, in summary, this year's summer slide is a challenging one, but we have been here before. We need to keep in mind that leases don't just come out of thin air. Leases come due to preparation by implementing the foundations of leasing and marketing, along with some creative techniques to reach a generation that approaches our communities differently. We also need to remember to give ourselves grace. Take moments in the day to celebrate the small wins and give ourselves time to put each week into perspective according to our property goals. So, with that being said, I'll see you on the way up or on the way down to 100%.
Hey, big thanks to Terrence for putting that together. If you don't know Terrence, uh, make sure you connect with him on LinkedIn. He is always putting out really thoughtful content, and he's really getting kind of great discussion started about what he's seeing out on the road as an ops specialist for campus life and style. So make sure that you go uh, look him up on LinkedIn. Again, it's Terrence Jackson. So, moving on to a couple things, I do want to make you aware of a couple of events that are coming up to put on your calendar. So, if you're going to the NMHC Student Housing Conference in Vegas this October, we're going to be doing a Top Golf mixer for all owners and operators that are attending the conference. You could go to studenthousinginsight.com and click on the events tab there to find the registration. If you're a supplier or a vendor and you want to attend, you are invited to be a sponsor. And I'll leave my email in the show notes so you can request more info for that. But again, only owners and operators can register on the website. Also, later this year, we're going to be doing two events around LeaseCon TurnCon. If you've been attending LeaseCon TurnCon, and again, LeaseCon TurnCon is put on by Interface Conference Group. They're the same group that puts on the big Interface Student Housing Conference in Austin each spring. But if you've been attending LeaseCon TurnCon over the past few years, you know that we put kind of a big end of year mixer together for that, and we'll be doing that again this year. That's not on the events page yet, but it will be as soon as we get a little bit closer to fall. And just so you know, LeaseCon for short, it is going to be December 9th and 10th, and it's going to be in Charlotte again, also at the Uptown Hilton. So it's great for me. It's in my backyard and doesn't require me to get a hotel or anything like that. So again, December 9th and 10th in Charlotte is when LeaseCon TurnCon is. Also, on December 11th, we will be hosting our second annual Shop Talk Executive Summit. This is an invite-only event. It's a workshop-style event that it's very intimate and exclusive among executives of operating companies. We did a trial run last year that Walk to Campus Property sponsored, and everyone that attended said they wanted to do it again. So we're doing it again. So what can you expect from the Shop Talk Executive Summit? It's really an opportunity for operators of all sizes to come together and talk about what's ahead for the next year, and what's going to be impacting operations, and collectively really talking about potential solutions to get over any hurdles that we're going to be facing the next year. It's a one-day meeting, although I think a lot of folks are going to be planning dinners and things for the evening of the 11th, and maybe even staying in town an extra night. But it pairs really well with LeaseCon, and again, it's an invite-only event. You will not see it on our events page. But if you are listening and you're an executive, or let's say above regional manager type of position, and you're thinking, you know what, I could really benefit from something like that, shoot me an email. Again, the address is in the show notes, and I'll make sure to get you an invitation. Well, guys, that does it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching or listening, and a big thanks to our sponsor, the Guarantors. If you'd like to find out more about how the Guarantors can get more students qualified to live at your properties and also help reduce bad debt, go check them out at theguarantors.com/student. Well, guys, thanks so much, and we'll see you out there.